Hey everyone, it's me, Tay. I know it's been a long time since we've gotten together, have a little chat. Been going through some things, you know. But I wanted to take some time out today, get some fresh air. I'm here in Central Park. It's gorgeous out. But I wanted to talk to you today about the power of words and your own personal power. Now, there are things that I keep seeing on my social media about like how certain people react to certain quotes as they deal with interpersonal relationships and how we act towards one another. And what I want to say is, yes, there is great power to the things that we say. It says it in the Bible, even though I'm not a really biblical person. It says in the Bible, the power of life and death is held in the tongue. But the way that people interpret these quotes makes a difference. Like the things that I keep seeing is I keep seeing people say that they hate these quotes because they allow people who are shitty and exhibit shitty behavior, they allow them to remain shitty and not check themselves and become better people. Let me tell you something. Quotes do have the power to make people look at themselves, but the thing is, the real power lies with us. Let me tell you more about what I'm trying to say. The first quote is somebody had a negative reaction to the quote, "Don't change yourself for a relationship." And he said he hated it because it allows shitty people to remain shitty and not look at themselves and try to become better. And I'm like, that's not what that quote means. It's not what it was intended for. When someone says you shouldn't have to change yourself for a relationship, it means you shouldn't have to give up your identity. You shouldn't have to give up your likes and desires and who you are at your core in order to gain the love and acceptance of another. And, somebody can twist that to mean, well, you have to accept that I'm a dick and be in a relationship with me. It's not what it means at all. That's something an abusive person says. You know what I mean? Like, people will take words and twist them around and make them fit to their own worldview and justify their behavior. It happens with religious texts all the time. But that quote was intended to mean you should stay strong within yourself and remain who you are as a person, retain your likes, your wants, desires, your goals, and stay true to that instead of throwing that all away and losing your identity in this other person, because that other person can up and leave you and then you're left all alone not knowing who you are anymore. If somebody tries to say, well, I'm an asshole and you need to accept that I'm an asshole, again, that's something an abuser says. I can accept that you are an asshole. Accepting that you are an asshole does not mean that I have to accept you into my life. That doesn't mean that I have to subject myself to your assholishness. Case in point, my own father. My father is emotionally abusive. I choose not to associate with him because my life, my spirit, my energy, my mental health is more precious to me than spending time with him simply because he's my father. There is nowhere written that if somebody treats you poorly, you must stay around them. The other quote somebody posted today that they didn't like, the quote that's normally attributed to Marilyn Monroe, is if you can't handle me at my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. And again, he said that he doesn't like it because it justifies shitty behavior and it's saying that I can treat you however I want and I do not have to care about your own needs. Again, I've never ever taken that quote to mean that. I've always taken that quote to mean if you're not going to be there for the struggle, you don't deserve to be there at the victory. If you can't support me when everything is going wrong, then you don't deserve to be there when everything is going right. As somebody that struggles with depression, I know that I put my friends and family through it. Like, I don't launch into vicious attacks, but I know that it can be hard to deal with me because I am a weepy mess or I'm not thinking rationally, and that can be emotionally taxing. And I thank the gods that I have people in my life who recognize that and they're like, no, I'm going to help you through this. And those are the people that will get to stand beside me when I do tame this beast of depression and move forward with my life and go on to create this wonderful life that I'm building for myself, or that I want to build for myself. That's always what I've taken that to mean. Again, nowhere is it written that if somebody exhibits shitty behavior, that you have to take that in and sit there and deal with it. And to both quotes and these points that, well, it allows people to not do the inner work to become better people. The words, yes, words do have power, but no, shoving quotes in someone's face is not going to make them say, oh, I need to stop being a dick. No, what's going to cause them to stop being shitty is them. They have to make that choice to say, I no longer want to be this person because I see that it's negatively affecting my life. The thing that I told both of these friends is the reason shitty people stay shitty people is because people tolerate their shitty behavior. If people didn't tolerate it, then these people could be like, oh, nobody wants to be around me. I need people and nobody's around. Why is that? Could it be that because I'm emotionally abusive to everybody in my life that nobody wants to, that might not always happen. You have people in this world who'll be like, well, I don't need anybody, so I'm going to continue to be a horrible person and I don't care if anybody co-signs on it. But if you decide to stay around somebody who's being asshole-ish, dickish, emotionally abusive, whatever, if you decide to stand and tolerate that behavior, now granted, I know there are situations that you cannot control. I have witnessed and been in abusive situations where I could not run away. I could not just pack up and leave. But I truly believe that there is, I don't want to say there's always a way out, because there are certain situations where there isn't. Like if you're a child and you're 9 years old and nobody believes that you're being hurt, either mentally or physically, I completely understand that there are certain situations where you cannot get away. But what I'm saying to you, my viewers, who are probably able-bodied adults with their own jobs, or somehow they have their own income coming in, they're supporting themselves. What I'm saying to you is that there is a way out for you. You do not have to just sit there and take it. And these quotes are not saying you need to sit there and take it. If you no longer want to be around somebody that's shitty, then don't be around them. It's, I know I'm repeating myself, but it's like this. You can totally accept that somebody that you care for is an asshole. Accepting that does not mean that you have to subject yourself to that. That is the difference. You can accept this person's dickish personality, and you can accept that they are not going to change. You cannot change a person. Yes, you may be able to influence their decision to change, but like I said, at the end, it has to be their decision to change. And their decision to change really doesn't have anything to do with you. I am 35 years old. I've been trying to get my mother to stop smoking since I was 6 years old. Now, when I was growing up, it hurt that she wouldn't stop smoking, because there is that thought, if my mother loved me enough, she would want to stop smoking because she would want to live long enough to see me go through life, and she would want to live long enough to be there for me when I'm going through my transitions, when I'm graduating from college, when I'm getting married, when I'm having my children. And it took a lot of reflection and learning to love myself for me to be able to say, no, her decision to continue to smoke is a reflection on how she feels about herself. It's not a reflection of how she feels about me. And I think that's where people get messed up, is they think that somebody's shitty behavior is a reflection on them, and they think that, oh, I'm a horrible person if I don't sit there and accept this behavior and try to love them through it. No, you are not obligated. Now, I know there are people who are like, but it's, if it's somebody like, it's family, you shouldn't turn your back on family. I'm sorry, I cannot subscribe to that. Again, I chose not to associate with my father because of his emotional behavior towards me, my mother, and anybody else in our family. I'm not doing it. If they choose to, that's fine. But just because he's my father does not mean that I have to sit there and continue to It does not mean that I need to sit there and subject myself to emotional abuse because he's my father. I am not obligated to do that. You are not obligated to do that. And no quote on any plaque, plate, or mirror or post-it note is going to say that, yes, you have to do this. And that's really all I have to say about it. Like, if you don't want shitty people in your life, don't be around shitty people. If they're not going to change, accept that they're not going to change and cut them off from your life. Yes, again, I know there are situations where it's not that simple. You know, if it's like an ex-partner that you have a child with, so yes, that person's going to be a part of your life for the rest of your life, things of that nature. But you can limit the amount of exposure you have to that person. And if they're twisting around a quote and gaslighting you to make you think that you have to stay with them, recognize that and be like, I need people to understand and be strong enough in themselves and love themselves enough to know that they can walk away, that they do not have to deal with this. And that shitty people are going to be shitty people until they make the choice to no longer be shitty people. If somebody feels validated enough because enough people say, okay, I'm going to accept this behavior and allow them to treat me however I want, then they're not going to change. It's like, what was I just thinking about? It just went right out of my head. I'm sorry. It's like, oh, okay. The analogy I'm thinking of is the frog in the boiling water. If you put a frog in boiling water, obviously it's going to jump right out. But if you slowly turn up the heat, eventually the frog is going to burn to death because it got acclimated to the rising temperature of the water. So it's like, if somebody is an asshole, like somebody in the comments of this the post about the quote, the Marilyn Monroe quote, they were like, that's why Trump is president, because he doesn't believe he has to change because people should just accept him how he is. It's like, no, he became the president because enough people validated and tolerated his shitty behavior. And that's why he keeps escalating and doing all of these ridiculous things and saying whatever he wants. One, because he has agency as his own person, but two, because nobody is sitting down and telling him, no, you cannot do this. He's facing no consequences. And that's, I think, really the point of everything. If a person who exhibits assholish, dickish, shitty behavior suffers no consequences for that behavior, no, then they're not going to change. And that's it. If you keep staying around that person, they think that it's okay. Oh, that's what I wanted to say originally. It's like, if people wonder why catcalling goes on and why guys think it's okay to do certain things, and or even girls, or why people think that it's okay to say vulgar things to another human being, because somewhere down the line they got away with it. Somewhere down the line enough people didn't tell them that it was wrong. Somewhere along the line they were rewarded for that behavior, so that reward validated how they acted. And you'll see it, like, they'll keep going and going and going until they find somebody that accepts that behavior. If they run into enough people, this is my personal belief, if you run into enough people that don't accept assholish behavior, there is a strong chance, again, it won't always happen, but there's a strong chance that that shitty person might look at themselves and go, oh, maybe this isn't right. You know, if their goal, let's set it like this. If a guy hits on 25 women at a bar, if each of those 25 women tell him no, if he's being disrespectful, again, there's a chance that he might go, okay, maybe I need to change my approach. Again, it might not always work, but there's that possibility that he might say, okay, maybe I need to change my approach. But if his goal is to hit on 25 women, and by the time he hits like number 16 or 17, he gets a number, he's gonna stop, because he's been rewarded for his shitty behavior. So that's really what it is. Don't blame the quotes, blame the shitty people. Stop feeling that these quotes are giving power to these people when the real power lies with you and you deciding if you're strong enough to walk away from these people. If you say, no, I shouldn't have to put up with shitty behavior, then don't put up with it. These quotes do not mean in any way, shape, or form that you need to sit there and accept abuse. Point blank, period. If a shitty person does not want to change, accept that they're shitty and that they do not want to change, cut them off. Blame the shitty person, not the quote. All right, it's time for me to go back to work.